So what we can do now that we have this new relationship set up, is we can create attendees inside our activities, and our activities can have multiple attendees. But what we'll do first of all is we'll just make sure that when we create an activity, and I'll just clean things up in here, that we add the user that's actually creating this activity as the host of that activity. So let's go to our application project inside the activities, and we want to take a look at our create method. And the command properties will stay the same as the validator, but what we want to do in here is we want to get a reference to the currently logged in user, because in order to access this method, it's going to have to be a user that is authenticated. So we'll be able to get their username from the token, and therefore the user from the database. And then we can use that user to add a new attendee to the activity. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to bring in the iUserAccessor and say user accessor, so that we can get access to the user's username from the token when they make this request. And we'll also just initialize the field from the parameter, and I'll just take out list dots. So we'll create the activity just as we have been, and adding it to our context, and this is all taking place in memory. We're not saving anything to the database in any of the highlighted code. And what we'll do below this is we'll get our user from the database. So I'll say var user equals await context.users, and we'll need to use single or default async here. It's an async method because we're going out to our database. So I'll use Microsoft Entity Framework Core. And what we want to do is get the user that matches the user's username that we're getting from our user accessor. So we'll say x goes to x.username, and that's equal to user accessor.getCurrentUsername. And this will give us a user object to work with for the currently logged in user. And then what we can do is say var attendee equals new user activity, and we can say app user equals user, the activity is equal to the activity, the isHost property will set to true, and the date joined is just going to be equal to datetime.now. And then what we can do below this is say context.userActivities.add and the attendee. And inside our context now, we've got two changes that we're going to be saving. We're going to be saving our activities, or our new activity, into this activities collection, and then we're going to be adding our attendee into our user activity, and then we just go ahead and save this into our database by using the context save changes async. So this will technically return two changes, and if that's successful, then we'll just continue to return the unit.value. So what we'll do next is go and test this in Postman, but I also want to introduce a couple of features in Postman that we can use to make our testing of this a little bit easier, and we'll take a look at that next.